So hi everybody, my name is Fee. I work as the ecologist on Ol Jogi Wildlife Conservancy, and I've been there for just over 2 years now. It's an amazing privilege to be here, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share how we incorporate EarthRanger, amongst other programs, into our day-to-day management of Ol Jogi. And I'm going to focus particularly on security and our biodiversity monitoring. So just for a little bit of geographical context, Ol Jogi is located in Laikipia County, labeled there as number 31, which lies on the eastern side of the Rift Valley province in Kenya. So we're directly north of Nairobi, and the closest urban hub to Ol Jogi is Nanyuki town, and we are just northwest of Mount Kenya. So you can see we are actually just almost in the center of Laikipia. So Ol Jogi is a 25,000 hectare private conservancy and one of 4 established rhino areas in Laikipia. And why this is relevant is because Kenya's landscapes are actually generally open, but rhino areas are fenced in. There are 2 district roads that are those lines in orange that cut through the property, which divides it into essentially 3 portions. The first is what we call Pyramid there on the east. And this is where we have our Wildlife Rescue and Education Center, as well as our rhino bomas. And the Wildlife Rescue and Education Center is open to local Kenyan tourism. It's an elephant exclusion zone, and it has a population of black and white rhinos. If we move west over the road, the second portion is the main conservancy, where we have our main exclusive tourism operation. And this portion of the property also has a population of black and white rhinos and is fenced in with a low configuration fence line. And then right on the west, there's the third portion, and this is not included in the rhino sanctuary, so it's largely unfenced. So as a result of our fences, we've got 18 wildlife corridors that have been strategically placed throughout the conservancy, and they allow for the free passage of all wildlife, excepting, of course, rhinos. So I've got a view here of one. And each of these corridors is equipped with a unified CCTV camera, and they are infrared and motion detection cameras that are solar powered. And in fact, even hippos can move in and out of these corridors, but not rhinos. And then these cameras stream a live feed through to our operations room, and this is basically what our operators will be looking at 24 hours a day. And then surrounding Ol Jogi, we've got 2 communities called Ilpale and Lekiji. And then the other properties surrounding us are privately owned mixed-use conservancies and cattle ranches. So these are basically all the elements that make up Ol Jogi as a whole. So first and foremost, we are a wildlife conservancy protecting and maintaining biodiversity. And then we have this Wildlife Rescue Center that I mentioned earlier, and we work in partnership with the Kenya Wildlife Service to rescue, we work with the Kenya Wildlife Service and use the Wildlife Rescue Center and an adjoining vet clinic to treat cases from all over the region and not just from Ol Jogi. We have a unique and exclusive tourism model, as well as the local Kenyan operation that I mentioned earlier, that comes through the Wildlife Rescue and Education Center. And this year, we have had over 12,000 people visiting this facility. So, it's quite well known in Kenya. And as well as the Wildlife Rescue and Education Centre, Ol Jogi has a school that educates up to 280 children of staff, and we also assist schools in neighbouring communities. And then we run a livestock program as an income revenue stream and as part of our land restoration program, while also allowing community to graze their cattle on Ol Jogi when conditions allow. And speaking of communities, we run a community partnership program with Lekiji and Ilpale, and we assist with incidences of human-wildlife conflict, banditry, incidences of insecurity, and have various upliftment programs running with them. They also provide very important eyes on the ground for us and provide us with intel of any suspicious activity happening in the landscape. And our security department is integral in protecting our surrounding communities and, of course, our wildlife. And then lastly, we have our maintenance and operations that are basically the backbone of everything that we do on the property, from maintaining infrastructure, water, electricity, Wi-Fi connectivity, roads, fences. And so since about 2020, 51 Degrees has worked with Ol Jogi to build out our EarthRanger platform. And so we use EarthRanger. Basically, the green bits that I've highlighted there, that's essentially how we implement EarthRanger. Well, we use EarthRanger to help manage those aspects. So all ground staff from the various departments are equipped with smartphones, and they make use of the ER app in the field to populate all different kinds of data. So starting with our law enforcement side, we've got 32 national police reservists trained by the Kenya National Police, and we have 70 other security personnel, including rhino monitors, general security, and fence liners. We also work very closely with the Kenya Wildlife Service. So in Kenya, the wildlife belongs to the state, and us as protected area managers are the custodians and guardians of that. So there are 30 KWS rangers stationed on Ol Jogi, and EarthRanger is used in all of our law enforcement activities. So around the circle, these are basically all of our report templates. So each one is represented there for law enforcement. And as I mentioned, any issues of insecurity are handled within and the surrounding landscape. And being able to use EarthRanger for record keeping has been absolutely game-changing and ensured that all the correct information is recorded as accurately as possible. And the use of the app for security includes live tracking of patrols, of radios, and we also have LoRa devices on our security vehicles. So this is an example. It's a very useful report template that we've got for our corridor detections. So from the 18 wildlife corridors that I mentioned previously, the motion detection capability captures any movement in front of these cameras. A still image of these detections is then sent to Wildlife Protection Solutions, and their AI picks up any humans, vehicles, or rhinos that are present, and then an automated corridor detection report comes up on EarthRanger. So this is an example of a detection at our Kilo 5 station. So you can see our operators would open it up, and you can see it's a couple of people on a motorbike. And we know that's fine, it's a public road, so they'll note that down. But it has been so useful as extra eyes and also for record keeping, because we have had incidences of people coming through to collect firewood or illegal grazing, and so there it's automatically stored without us doing anything really. And then here you can see these are just a couple of examples of the various tracking units that we've deployed on the Conservancy. So I've opened up a radio report for Kilo 9. Kilo 9 is a rhino monitor. And his radio is tracked through a program called TurboNet. And so you can see on this report, I don't know if the writing's too small, but that was, when I opened it, it was 2 minutes ago. I can see what he's done over the past 2 days. He's done 31 kilometers. And so that's the radio tracking through TurboNet. And then off to the left-hand side, you can see Ronnie the lion, as well as Wild Dogs 1 and 2. And we work with Lion Landscapes as well as with the Northern Rangelands Cheetah and Wild Dog Project. So they've given us their collar information so we can see it on our platform. And when we send our species monitor out to monitor these animals, we give that information back to those other organizations. And then, of course, we've just put LoRa sensors on various machinery and vehicles across the Conservancy. So bottom left hand, you can see there's the grader and then also the vehicles. And very much the same, you can see the lengths of their tracks. You can determine what speeds they were doing. So all very useful. And I'll talk about the cattle in a couple of slides. Then it's also been particularly useful for our reserve operations and maintenance of infrastructure. So the road maintenance and erosion control are visualized on the platform, and from here our operations manager is able to see hotspots and plan where and when he'll deploy certain machinery and equipment. And then, as I said, LoRa collars have been deployed onto each cattle herd. And we've also just started to put LoRa sensors onto our fencing network to gauge, and they send volt readings or gauge voltage. And these will indicate to the team when the voltage is down, and so then they can send out resources to go and repair those. So this is just an example of our erosion control, road maintenance, and fence breakage reports. So each erosion report is resolved once the area has been addressed. So we can always see where problems persist. Then cattle ranching and conservation go hand in hand in Kenya. LoRa sensors are placed on each cattle herd, and the yellow lines that you can see there are our geofences. So this has really optimized our rangeland management. The LoRa sensors log a point every 15 minutes, and if they cross a geofence, then the operation team gets a notification on their phone, and they can also follow up quite rapidly on that. And as an added benefit to this, we can also check if each block has been grazed adequately before deciding to move them on. You can see there's a gap there. So we'll bring the herdsmen in and show them this, and say, well, we need to move further south before heading across into block 2, for example. So it's been a very useful thing for us. One more thing is on the left-hand side, you can see the report templates represent our mobile BOMA sites that are part of our tool, they're part of our tool set that we use for erosion mitigation. So here are all the ecological elements that we log and track on EarthRanger. So each of these has been invaluable for accurate data capture and monitoring the trends. So without the ER platform, a lot of this information would actually be very difficult to manage and use or even collect Jean in her keynote speech yesterday said that she used to do spider tracks onto Google Earth and, just try to tie everything together. It's probably about 5 years ago that if I wanted to monitor a wild dog, I'd go out, I'd put pen to paper, go back home, type it into the laptop, then start forming CSV files and all sorts of stuff. And now, with very little effort, I can check the territories of our lion prides with a click of a button, which is phenomenal. So with the development of the app, we have started to collect info on daily patrols. So what I've got up here is a patrol template. And so again, this is another rhino monitor, Kilo 13. I can see who, I can see what date and time, the duration, the distance, and then what he's collected, what information he's collected. So you can see he's seen a black rhino and a vulture sighting. And all of this, then we can track our patrol efforts. And then off to the right-hand side there, you can see there's Tango 11. You can see where he's. Let me just get the cursor across there. You can see where he has started his patrol, and then he went all around, and then he ended his patrol down there. So, and then on the left-hand side, you can see all the other rangers and what they've done. So this is an example of our invasive alien plant report template. It works very much the same as our erosion control. It gets resolved once the area's been addressed. And we also have a bit of a punchier, stricter problem in Laikipia. So what we've done about 10 years ago, we started to breed a cochineal scale insect in greenhouses, and then they're released every 6 weeks. And we also track this effort using EarthRanger too. Then our corridors have been very useful our corridor cameras have been very useful for tracking elephant and giraffe movement in and out of the conservancy. So this is data from January up until now. And so the orange is the total in and the blue is the total out. And then those names there are the names of the different corridors. So it's been very handy for quantifying the numbers of particularly elephant on the property. And I mean, this is just a pivot chart. So, I mean, you can really go down to details by day almost. So giraffe data is also recorded in much the same way, but we send this on to the Giraffe Conservation Foundation and one or two other researchers. Then for carnivores, we record all sightings of large, meso, and small carnivores. We ran a camera trap survey last year with 114 sites. And we've also been working, as I said, with Lion Landscapes, who have funded the position of a species monitor. So all of the live sightings and camera sightings of carnivores and other key species are logged on the platform. We process our camera trap images using TrapTagger. Nicholas is sitting here. And then for spotted hyena, striped hyena, cheetah, and leopard, we load their images onto African Carnivore Wildbook for individual identification and further analysis. So there's been a really, really exciting development, literally in the last week or so, with these programs. But first, let me explain what TrapTagger is. So it's a web application that uses AI and annotation interfaces to rapidly process images and generate raw data sets. It's been an absolute game changer. So in that survey, we processed close on 300,000 images, and it was actually something that I had been doing on the side. So we definitely wouldn't have been able to do the survey if it wasn't for TrapTagger. And the development is that Nicholas from TrapTagger and Victor from EarthRanger have been working very hard together to get an automated camera trap sighting onto EarthRanger via Gundi. So our species monitor used to export all the leopard data, for example, off of TrapTagger, and then he would manually load each sighting onto EarthRanger. And now all we have to do is press number 2 for leopard, and it'll come through on EarthRanger as a sighting. So again, game-changing, and allowing us just to do so much more. And then, as I mentioned before, all of our sightings of leopard, cheetah, striped hyena, and spotted hyena are loaded onto African Carnivore Wildbook for individual classification. So this is another free-to-use web platform that uses computer vision and AI technology to match individuals in the database. It's an Africa-wide database, and it's also been very useful to generate ID kits for us and store all kinds of different data on each individual. So Paul is also sitting here, and he and Maureen work as tech for conservation. And I'm just going to show you, so this is Cheetah 1, and this was a sighting that we had of her in February, and yeah, it matched a sighting that we'd have. I think the last time she had been seen was in 2001. So yeah, no, it's very cool. And then her page, it kind of stores all the individual's information. So it's kind of like a Facebook page for our cheetahs and leopards. And for example, it shows, the familial relationships. So, I mean, we've just started to gain momentum with this, but you can imagine that in 5 years or 10 years' time, what these charts are going to look like and what kind of information, again, you can get with just pretty much doing nothing. I think I've just driven around in my car and loaded it on yeah, so anyway, very interesting. And then obviously it also maps out where each sighting has been. So the green dot is her last sighting, and then, yeah, tracks her, historical range. So again, with very little effort, I can pretty much see what her territory is. Then in Kenya, and I have to thank Charlene for lending me the slide. In Kenya, we've started to utilize something called ER to ER sharing. And I have a couple of examples, but one of them is a project called the EarthRanger Health Program that was developed by the partners that you can see on the slide. Along with 51 Degrees, they've created these disease recognition report templates. They have gone around to the various conservancies and trained our rangers on recognizing diseases. And so when a report is filled and submitted in the field, it not only shows up on our platform, but it also shows up on the KWS vets and also the project partners. And then plans can be actioned if necessary, with all of us collaborating. So we also use ER to ER for rhino and elephant deaths, as well as for human-wildlife conflict incidences, which are shared also with KWS and the Wildlife Research and Training Institute in Kenya. So this has really streamlined our communication, collaboration, and management amongst all the stakeholders in the landscape. And lastly, these are our donors and our partners. None of this would be possible without these collaborators. And so, yeah, I'd like to thank them. And, yeah, thank you for listening to my talk. And I invite you to ask questions if you have any, and I might call upon some of my colleagues in the audience if I can't answer. But yeah, there's a microphone, so.
Thank you so much for that, Pete. As somebody who's pretty much just starting out with EarthRanger in both terrestrial and a bee context,
So they're ready to go. Trap Tagger is ready to go, and Wild Book. So the Wild Me community, which is it's Wild Book, it's African Carnivore Wild Book. They've even got Wild Book even has templates for sea creatures, I think. Maybe Paul can elaborate on which those are. But yeah, absolutely. And they're all free to use. So Wildlife Protection Solutions, Trap Tagger, and Wildbook are completely free, and of course EarthRanger. And yeah, very easy, plug and play, and you go. And I don't know, Paul, if you want to elaborate on the.
Yeah, the Wildbooks aren't a single platform. Sorry, the Wildbooks aren't a single platform, so you do need to figure out what you want to keep where. But we've tried to put all the African carnivores, we're up to 10 talents now in the African carnivore Wildbook. But if you're dealing with marine species, there are dedicated systems for those. Turtles, for instance, seahorses, whales. So there's quite a spectrum out there. And there is a move to start to consolidate and put more multi-species wild books out, because it just lends to this kind of efficiency, and especially in the case of the big carnivore field, the large carnivore field, the interaction between species becomes an important capability that you have eventually once you collect enough data. When we talk about templates, it always is all about preparing your data. And things like Gumby, I think the Trap Tagger guys are ahead of the curve on this in terms of getting those APIs in place. So kudos to them. We are working hard to go the same route. So that if you're getting data from Smart into EarthRanger, that you can then send it for individual ID, that'll fly back into EarthRanger. Or if you started by bringing everything into Wildbook, then you can send it up, some aspect of it up into EarthRanger. But those are all in the pipeline.
Yeah, you need to go.
Oh, I should put it on, that helps.
I know. Oh dear. Hi, Jamie.
Yeah, just relax. It's okay. I'm going to be nice. I was just going to say, it's all, quite a lot of your presentation was quite sort of nice to have, but from a management perspective, you didn't talk about Tableau and Ecoscope, which is obviously the new exciting thing. So I don't know if you want to mention how we can use all of that data to put it into something that we can use from a management perspective.
Well, we're currently using with the patrols. We can visualize that 51 degrees is still building out our Tableau and Ecoscope, but there's so much potential there. I mean, as we saw yesterday in the Ecoscope talk, I don't know if everyone attended it. They spoke about Ecoscope. But yeah, I mean, it's again, with very little effort from us as protected area managers, pretty soon, once 51 degrees is done, we could just flip across and be able to visualize the stuff in graphs and tables, maps. Yeah, I'm still using GIS a little bit for territory maps and stuff, but that's just in the lag phase of implementing Tableau and Ecoscope.
I have a similar question, and I agree, like this is a lot of really exciting data to collect, and I'm curious, what's the plan moving forward in terms of staff, et cetera, for data analysis? It sounds like there's a number of different individuals. I think a lot of us are probably really familiar with perhaps whose responsibility it is on the ground to be collecting this on the phone.
Yeah.
How is the work going to be divvied up, or like how do you plan that?
So part of it is legislated. We have to be able to provide KWS and WRTI with these data sets. In fact, our carnivore stuff goes to WRTI. There's also a number of research institutions that use our data. We had a carnivore specialist coming up to do some human-wildlife conflict stuff and said, you've got these corridor cameras, I want to start collecting all the hyenas that come through. And I said, well, we've got it now for 2 years. So I've taken all of that data, given it to her, and now she's continuing to watch them. So I'm a little bit of a a little bit of an obsessive, like, monitoring freak. So I kind of walked onto the Conservancy and said, well, let's monitor that, let's monitor that. You'll see that we even have like a amphibian report template because, because there's a frog, we need to record it. And a lot of it has been very useful. And in fact, I should just show you this because I've got it open. TrapTagger, again, is this is an analysis of our entire survey. All I had to do was click go, and it's given me all of these. There's the diversity indices, there's the species abundance. If I scroll down, it's done for me. And then anyone who wants the data can use it. But mainly it is a legislated activity. So, I hope that answers that. There's a question at the back there.
Yes. My name is Eric. My name is Eric from Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. In regards to vehicle tracking.
Yes.
Have you been able to test sensors that can monitor fuel? Because sensors that can monitor things like fuel, fuel levels, and accurate speed and such. Thank you.
So speed is it's done through TurboNet, so we can accurately measure speed. Fuel use, I probably need to pass the question over to Jamie. Maybe you can answer that. But we're getting LoRa sensors for water level testing, as well as for our canine use. I don't know what else. Our fence gauges. I don't know, Jamie, if you can answer that. If you can test fuel use with any sensors or.
There's more sensors out there. I think the ones that you had, or the ones that they rolled out in Loisaba, it came without an instruction manual, and there's like 7 wires that measure velocity, fuel, the odometer, all of that sort of stuff. So to answer your question is yes, we can get LoRa sensors that measure all of those dynamics, but we're just working with the suppliers to try and get hold of their instruction manual.
Okay, thanks. I think that is all, unless anyone's got anything else.
Just one quick one, sorry.
Yes.
This cattle herding data.
Yes.
Do you herd them in small areas and kraal them at night?
Yes. So I didn't really elaborate on that, but the rotational bomas we actually use for erosion mitigation. So we find bare areas, and then for 7 days at a time, they're corralled onto those areas. And in fact, there's a livestock presentation now where we show just that, where there's a before and after picture, and it's part of our land restoration activities.
And it's regenerating in those forests.
Yes, there is a slight concern about whether, what species are they putting down there when they're manuring. But that's essentially it's regenerating.
Is that something EarthRanger can monitor, or is it another
Yeah.
software?
It's something we can use. Well, we can use the satellite images as well, and then perhaps have a report template and have it on there. And of course, Ecoscope will show that type of stuff as well. Sure. As I said earlier, Nicholas and Paul are here if you guys want to approach them about Wild Book and TrapTagger. So, I'm throwing you guys under the bus there, but Yeah, cool. Well, thank you very much, everyone.